You guys still there? Alright, well, since we're both here, we might as well make a video, right? Right, here we go. What's on, guys? Jay Hoyt back with you today. I know it's been a while, almost a month since I last uploaded. Lots of reasons behind the scenes, off YouTube, real life, adulting, not fun. But either way, we're back here today. We're back on Call of Duty Black Ops 6, playing ranked play. I think this is Protocol, Hardpoint or Control. I don't remember what I labeled it. But either way, we got some good news, we got some bad news. Not exactly sure which one of those would really best use to describe what's going on, and that is OpTic has made a roster change. Of course, we're in the OpTic shirt, OpTic's in the background. You guys know my love for the green wall, and let's just say Major 2 has not been ideal for them. And what I mean by that is that your reigning world champions in Shotzzy, Pred, Kenny, and Dashy went, yeah, I'm about to say this number, went 1-6 with a 3-19 map count. Now, don't get me wrong. Obviously, everybody has some tough moments where they don't play how they should or as they're expected to do. But when you have a team like OpTic go the first 6 matches of this qualifier stage, they don't win a single map. They start 0-6. Like I said, don't win a single map. So they get 3-0 in every series up until the very last series where they finally win and they beat the LA Gorilla Mates to finally win one. Which LA Gorilla Mates finished 1-6. You know, not great for them. You know, just ahead of the Vegas Falcons. But this is not what we expect from OpTic, right? And why I mainly say that this is not what we expected from them is despite starting the season, playing the first week or something, when Pred goes out of the team, right? He gets dropped, Huke gets picked up. They still play well, 6-1 overall in the first qualifier series, 20-10 map count. They lose their first series, then win 6 straight. Then in Major 1, they go out in losers bracket round 2. So they start number 1 seed. They get in game 5 loss in winners round 1 to Heretics, which Heretics not a bad team, right? They are kind of like underrated and they can definitely hang with the top teams. But for doing that well, like, you expect OpTic to win that one. But they drop down, they beat the LA Gorilla Mates, right? That team again. And then they lose to Carolina, right? Carolina played absolutely insane. They end up going, losers round 4 before they lose to Heretics. Look at that. But OpTic Texas, like I said, 6-1 in the first stage, right? Nothing changes. Then, go into Major 2, qualifiers, start 0-6, can't win a map, don't look like themselves, and just doesn't, you know, bode well for them. So we go into the qualifiers where let's just look through some of their matches here. So they played FaZe, obviously one of our best teams in the league. They played Carolina, one of the best teams in the league. Then you have LA Thieves, well, arguably the best team in the league right now. Then you play Heretics, which are underrated by far, in my opinion. Then you have Rocker, who kind of middle of the pack or so team. And then Toronto Ultra, top 3 team in the game right now. So it's not like you played a lot of your easier opponents or the people that are usually traditionally at the bottom of the standings, right? You played some good people, but something was missing. And I don't know what that was, but throughout the entirety of the Stage 2 qualifiers, OpTic looked terrible. And I'm not just looking at their stats and being like, oh, they all had negative KDs, so they all did terrible. I hate to do that. So we look at Hardpoint, right? And looking at this, I'm over on the Breaking Point website. Yes, they are getting outslayed in every single on every single person, right? Kenny's got a 0.92, or sorry, not Kenny. Dashy's got a 0.92. Kenny has a 0.73. Pred has a 0.97. Shotzzy has a 0.4. And in there, they go 2 and 6 in hard points. So, not great, right? That's not what you want to see. And so they win 2 hard points in the entirety of the stage, which would be that last match in the LA Gorilla Mates series. So that makes sense. So 2 and 6 in hard point. Not great, right? Not great. Then we jump over to Search and Destroy, where you have Dashy 0.85, Kenny 0.60, Pred 0.65, Shotzzy 0.78, and an 0 and 7 record in Search. So they didn't win one in the series they won, but 2 and 6, they won 2 hard points in the series that they won. So despite not looking great in the first 6 matches, the 7th match went okay. Then you look at Control, where you had Dashy 0.91, you had Kenny 0.61, Pred 1.09, and Shotzzy 1.03. For Control, 1 and 6. So again, not great, right? Just the whole, just everything just not great, right? Just there's so many words in the English language, and I don't know if I could properly describe how I feel about their performance, right? So overall, not great. And when you look at overall, I think I already mentioned this, but 0.91 for Dashy, 0.67 for Kenny, 0.97 for Pred, 0.95 for Shotzzy. So overall, not slaying, not winning maps. You're going to get outslayed. Your stats aren't going to look great. So I'm not trying to look at all of those, numbers. But they went in the order of they lost to FaZe, lost to Rocker, lost to Royal Ravens, lost to Heretics, lost to Toronto, lost to LA Thieves, and then their only win being in the LA Gorilla Mates series, which 4-game series, they looked very solid in the respawns. Obviously, Search did not go their way, but overall, they looked good in the respawns. Now, obviously, LA Gorilla Mates, not one of our best teams, right? They sit in, second to last, I think it is, in Major 2 qualifiers. So looking at that series, Dashy drops a 1.3. Kenny 0.91. That's not awful, right? When you look at the grand scheme of this entire series, Kenny dropping a 0.91. Dashy's got a 1.3. Pred's got a 1.45. Shotzi's got a 1.07. Pred ends up getting the match MVP. And overall, OpTic looked good, right? You're not always going to have everybody go positive. And then when you look at the respawns in the first map, Hacienda Hardpoint, Kenny does great, right? 1.26. Everybody all positive for OpTic, all over a 1.09. Dashy was the lowest one at that. He was positive 2. Overall look good, right? 250 to 166. Go into Search. Obviously, those woes continue. Kenny has a 0.25, which doesn't help. But still, 6-3, red cards, S&D. Not really looking too much into it. Map 3, though, everyone for OpTic slayed pretty good, right? Lunars didn't have a best series for the LA Gorilla Mates, but still, Dashy 1.9, Pred 1.5, Shotzzy 1.33, and then Kenny 0.93. He was -1. Not bad, right? If you got a guy that's -1, whatever. Like, the stats don't look great, but, like, you look at it overall, he's fine, right? They did fine. You look at map 4 Protocol, you have Dashy dropping a 1.38, Kenny with a 0.83, Pred with a 1.64. He was in Takeover. I think he was on 11 kill streak at one point, I think, this map. And then Shotzzy 0.8, but still, right? They pretty back and forth through the first rotation, and then really, neck and neck through the second rotation, and then start of the third rotation. They were slowly pull away right at the end. So we'll take that, right? Overall, OpTic did well in this series, and Dashy and Pred both slayed. Shotzzy did his job. Kenny, -6 overall in the series. Not terrible. But still, when you look at the overall from the whole stage, you can kind of see what's going on. So OpTic, after all this, you felt something was coming. And the problem with this being, at stage 2, when there is one, you're in your home event. So going 1-6, not playing well at all, you're probably going to met some pretty mixed reviews, right? Something had to happen. Whether it was before or after the major, most people probably would have bet on after, just given that you have your ring ceremony from last year, getting your rings for, winning champs. But before the event can happen, almost right after the last qualifier match, OpTic announced Kenny has been dropped. Now, obviously, Kenny, a two-time world champion, I believe, with Thieves and with now OpTic, so that's great. Obviously, one of, the better players of all time, for sure. One of those guys that, unfortunately, goes from your hero to kind of your scapegoat, if you will. So that's really tough to see, because there's always going to be one player that kind of gets that sometimes doesn't deserve it. And Kenny is a good player. He knows what he's doing. It's not like he's, garbage. But, a lot of people were saying, and even you can kind of tell, he just didn't look comfortable playing this game. He YY'd a lot, which isn't a terrible thing, but with how fast the game is, you're YYing in the middle of gunfights, and you're just not able to play the game to the best of your ability. Something had to change, and whether it was going to be just Kenny, or I know some people were thinking maybe a two-man change, with Kenny and Pred. But then also you got to remember, in order to fix your team, you have to bring in as good, if not better, talent and players that work to fix your issues. And a lot of people were saying bring Huke back. He's still technically a free agent. I know he's playing in challengers, but Huke could have been an option. He'll probably get picked up after this stage, honestly. But then you drop Kenny, and then what do you do? Right? If there's a two-man change, who do you go get? And I know I talk about, players all the time of potential options for these top teams. And when I look across the board at all these teams, is realistically, nobody has any subs. So I think Heretics has signed, and then the Vegas Falcons technically do. But you're not going to go get a player from the Falcons for obvious reasons. You're not going to get anybody from the Heretics for obvious reasons. So then that leaves either free agents or challengers. And yes, there's some good young talent out there, and kind of would be similar to the Ghosty situation from 2 years ago, when they brought out, when Scump retired and Dash was in and out and Illy was in and out, and they brought in a challengers player for the first time ever. That could have been a thing. I know a lot of people were talking about, what's his name, Encourage, which I believe he's currently on, FaZe Black, or Stallions, or whatever they're calling their team now. But I know a lot of people have been talking about him, how he's one of the best players in challengers. So that could have been an interesting option. But then the one player that more recently got dropped was Skyz from the LA Gorilla Mates, which, if we don't remember half of our conversation here, sit in second overall, or second worst from stage 2, right? And they sit, let's see the whole season so far. So they sit second worst at 4-14 match count, or series count, I should say, 28-44 map count, have 30 CDL points. So obviously they're another team that just wasn't doing well. So they end up dropping Skyz to the bench. They add in Lunars, which, they kind of stayed the same so far. So, I guess we'll see how that fully turns out to be. But OpTic today does announce that they have signed Skyz to their starting roster. Now, there's two things with this. Yes, something needed to change with OpTic, but at the same time, you're going into your home event. You have a ring ceremony with one of the players you just dropped, so that's going to be super awkward. Then, now you're playing the event with a player that you're going to have, 1, 2, maybe 3 days of practice with. So yes, Skyz has been around. He's not new to the scene by any means. He's been around for a while, and he can shoot his gun straight. But at the same time, was this your best option? I know they're friends, and he's still a good player, and he just won champs the year before OpTic did, and we know what player he could be. But at the same time, obviously they dropped him for a reason. Like, you don't keep your roster when you're not doing well. But if we take a look at Skyz stats, now of course, we got to take this with a little bit of a grain of salt here, just because the other girl mates aren't doing well. But hardpoint, he's got a 0.94. S&D, he's got a 1.06. Control, he's got a 0.9. So overall, 0.95. I mean, Slayer rating is whatever. I don't know what half these stats mean, but overall, they were struggling. So you can't really be like, oh, his stats are awful, so now OpTic's not going to get any better. Like, sometimes people just play worse given the game, given the system, given the coaching staff, given the map process. Like, there's a lot that goes into that people don't realize. But overall, I feel like, was Skyz your best option? I don't know, right? You have to see roles, you have to see who's available, who's willing to play for them, which you think, being arguably the biggest organization in the scene, that anybody would be like, yeah, absolutely, I'll come play for you. Like, that should be no question. But overall, I'm not in there, right? I'm just some guy that makes a YouTube video every once in a while and then obviously watches them when I can. So hopefully I'll do well. Obviously, I'll still be cheering for him. Best of luck to Kenny. Thank you for winning us a chip, winning us a world championship, bringing another ring back to the green wall. Obviously, good luck in your future. Don't know where that's going to be heading, but of course, he's probably going to spend stage 2 on the bench, or at least not on a starting roster in the CDL. Maybe he finds a challengers team and tries to figure it out down there, and hopefully gets another chance. But for now, OpTic moving on with shotzzy, Pred, Skyz, and Dashy. Looking forward to seeing them this weekend in Major number 2, which is a little bit of a segue into our next video. That's going to be some predictions for Major 2 in OpTic's home event. So, should be interesting. I can't wait to watch. But either way, guys, I hope you did enjoy. If you did, leave a like down below. Subscribe if you haven't already. And as always, guys, we'll see you in the next one.